NYC issues first drought warning. Oh yeah, I did hear about this. In 22 years, pauses aqueduct repairs to bring in more water. I did hear about that. I heard like New York and New Jersey is going through a drought right now. They're telling people to cut back on water, usage of water. New York issues first drought warning in 22 years, pauses aqueduct repairs to bring in more water. New York City on Monday issued its first drought warning in 22 years after months of little rain and will restart the flow of drinking water from an out-of-service aqueduct as supplies run low. Dry conditions across the Northeast have been blamed for hundreds of brush fires. They had already prompted New York City and state officials to implement water conservation protocols when Mayor Eric Adams upgraded the drought warning and temporarily halted a $2 billion aqueduct repair project that had stopped drinking water from flowing from some reservoirs in the Catskill region. Interesting. Last week, a park on the northern tip of Manhattan caught fire, sending smoke billowing across the city. Less than a week after a brush fire in Brooklyn's Prospect Park. Interesting. Usually when you hear about these fires, it's usually like in LA, right? Like on the West Coast. Oh, brush fires, wildfires, this, that, and the other. So to hear this in New York, to me, and again, of course, this article is saying that the last time they had to take these measures was 22 years ago. So yeah, it's not very common that you hear these things happening in New York City. New Yorkers should not underestimate the dry weather and what it means, Adams said at a news conference. The fire risk is high and the fire risk is real. Water-saving measures planned for the coming weeks will include washing buses and subway cars less frequently and limiting water use for fountains and golf courses, the mayor said. Our city vehicles may look a bit dirtier and our subways may look a bit dustier, but it's what we have to do to delay and stave off more serious drought emergency. To my understanding, no offense to New York, but subways have always looked a certain way. Your buses have always looked a certain way. I've lived there for a little while. Didn't New York just implement trash cans? Didn't I see that somewhere? New York just implemented the idea of trash cans instead of just throwing trash on the curbs as they usually do, where all the rats run free and play. They actually implemented the idea of, you know how like in regular suburban areas, one of the cases you have a trash dumpster where you actually put your trash bag in the in the trash can, the trash dumpster, you set it on the curb. I saw New York is just now implementing that, or they're entertaining the idea, and you're worrying about not being able to wash your buses and trains. It's going to look a little bit dirtier. A lot of things have looked a lot dirtier. So that's neither here nor there. But that's interesting, man. Again, that article comes from Associated Press. The first drought. New York issues its first drought warning in 22 years. Interesting. Again, you usually hear stories about that. You usually hear stories like that about in North Carolina. I'm sorry, not North Carolina, in California, West Coast, where it's just like wildfires. Oh, we got to cut back on this, we got to cut back on that. But I had this thought the other day, now since we're on the topic of water, how water is going to be, I think water is going to be worth more than gold. If you think about it, think about all the things we use water for. A drought on water, let's say, it's always interesting to me, and again, this is my personal opinion, since we're on the topic of this whole situation. I had a thought the other day, man. You know when the whole pandemic situation was happening, and people were rushing to the grocery stores and, scurrying up what they can, and people were grabbing toilet paper, right? We saw that in the media. We saw that in the news. People were rushing and make sure they had toilet paper because they prioritized a clean ass over a full stomach. They weren't grabbing medicine. They weren't grabbing water. People were fighting and wrestling for toilet paper. And then it hit me one day, man, water. I think, am I foolish to say water, if shit hits the fan, water would be worth more than gold. You know what, you ever been dehydrated? You ever just wanted to take a hot bath, a shower? Just stop for a second to think about all the things that we depend on for water. And people's like, gold is the next currency. If a drought continues and the aqueducts are low and people this, that, and the other, people will probably kill you for this. You heard the term die of thirst? A man walking into the Sahara Desert, you think he's gonna be more likely to take your bar of gold? If you try to bargain with him, you think he wants gold or water? Las Vegas, Nevada, all those places where you hear dry, arid lands, dry areas. I have a prediction that water is going to be worth more than gold under the under the wrong circumstances. Under the wrong circumstances, water will be worth more than gold. Remember I said it. Take this as an example. New York City, in 22 years, they're saying it's a drought on water. Hey, we can't wash our buses anymore. We can't wash our trains anymore, says the mayor. Things are going to look a little bit dirtier. Water. Sometimes we overlook simple things like this. You ever been dehydrated, bro? Water. I had a thought the other day, man. Like, if again, I have these theories about the power grid going down one day. I think it's inevitable. That's just my theory. And, you know, if you get that call one day, you get a scenario, your phone goes off. Emergency, emergency. Nobody leave your house. Stay in, shelter in place for the foreseeable future. Nobody go out. Water, my friend. Water. Sometimes water can serve as a meal. You ever been so broke, water was the only thing that you had? Just took myself back, bro. You ever had water for dinner? You ever had a few bottles of water and sleep for dinner? Took myself back, bro. So it's just like, I hear stories like this, and it just makes me think about the pandemic. And in such a city like New York City, come on, I think this actually branched out into the New Jersey area as well, too. Water. Water will be worth more than gold. A man that's dying of thirst does not care about your gold bar. He cares about a bottle of water. People just want to be able to clean themselves, wash their hands, to clean cuts and drink and, whatever the case is. If you're out in a Sahara desert somewhere, or not in a jungle somewhere, they look for water. You're looking for water. Water is going to be worth more than gold. In the wrong situation, water will be worth more than gold. I can't do nothing. If the electric grid goes down and nothing works and people are back to bartering, the dollar crashes, you know how people are expecting it to crash? What are you going to be using? Medicine is going to be a hot commodity. Water, ammunition, food, not toilet paper. It's interesting to me how high people ranked toilet paper during the pandemic as a necessity. Like, oh, now we need toilet paper. Our buttholes have to be clean. Water, my friend. Water. You get dehydrated. People collapse off of being dehydrated. You telling me that you're more concerned with Bitcoin and gold bars, and it's just interesting to me. That's just my personal opinion. Like, of course, yeah, I get it. Bitcoin, this, that. If the dollar falls, we need Bitcoin, blah, blah, blah. And again, I'm not as versed in that situation as well either. But in terms of survival, let's just talk about survival. In a situation where New York City is losing water or has a drought, this is going to be worth more than gold. My personal opinion. That's just my take.